Welcome to 28 Days and Beyond.
Where we talk about our history, our heritage, and our culture.
I'm Amari.
I'm Kharisma. Welcome. Hi, Amari.
Hey.
How are you?
Lady in Red.
You're supposed to sing it.
Yeah, I don't want to do that for the people.
Lady in Red.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. What's going on?
We're here to share some knowledge.
All right.
So, we're talking about spiritual literacy today.
Okay. That just
Do
got
you have
real
any
deep.
idea
That
what
just
I'm
got
talking
real
about?
deep.
No?
You're talking about spiritual
Literacy.
Yeah,
Thank you for that,
exactly.
Amari.
Yeah. Can your spirit read? Does your spirit have knowledge and information?
Something like that.
What's up?
No, really, we want to get into today this idea that, okay, when we talk about spirituality and Black people,
Yep.
we hear those words paired
Yeah.
often,
Black
right?
people are spiritual people.
But it usually is framed around a very specific form of spirituality, right? So you talk about Black people, you talk about the church, and religion, and this very kind of, I'm looking for the right word, but a very small. Do you get where I'm going? I'm struggling to try to
Well,
to
I think you know what you
articulate
want to say. You just don't
I
want to say it.
do.
So just come out with it. What's up?
Well,
We can clean it up afterwards. What's up?
It's just this idea that for Black people, spirituality can only be this one thing.
Right,
And
exactly.
anyone that thinks outside of that box or that frame that's been around for, centuries is kind of looked at sideways.
Yeah.
Which I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
I mean, you can look at me all the way sideways, sideways till you get upside down. It don't really matter. I mean, I think part of what's important about, for me, a healthy and productive spiritual life is following your spirit, not following what other people tell you that you should follow. And that's not like just being rebellious for rebellion's sake.
Right.
But ultimately, I think being in tune with yourself is to know, your higher self knows what is right. Your higher self knows what is wrong. Whether or not you choose to follow that,
Totally different story.
it's a whole different story.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, our guest today knows all about this topic.
She's spiritual literacy. She's spiritually literate.
She's very spiritually
That's
literate. Envy McKee is joining us today.
All right.
We're going to be talking about spiritual literacy, talking about what it means to be your own guru, and also what it means to take charge of your own spiritual well-being,
Right.
what that looks like, and the fact that it looks different for each individual, because that's something that I think, that's a conversation that I think needs to be had on a much larger platform.
That's what's up. Let's do it.
We're going to take a break, but we'll be back with more 28 Days and Beyond right after this. Welcome back to 28 Days and Beyond. We are now joined by the one, the only, Envy McKee. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi, Star Sister.
Hi, Star Sister. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for inviting
We're
me.
happy to have you. So before you joined us, we were talking about this concept of spiritual literacy.
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
Just like any other kind of literacy, it is having a sense of yourself, of what a thing is. And I feel like spirituality is the one thing that we don't really define in any personal way. How do you know when you're spiritually literate? How do you know when you're aligned? And I feel like literacy is just kind of another word for saying I'm in alignment with my higher self, as you so astutely pointed out. I feel like the reason why this conversation needs to be had more often, because we're in an age, I feel like, where we need to balance things out. Everything is so outward. We get our spirituality on Sunday. We go out there, someone else has it, and we're gonna go get it. And the reality is we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And so spirituality is what we are already. So there is not a stone. It's not something you have to do. It's not something you have to go out and get. It's something that you already are. And so part of our work is uncovering, hunkering down, centering in.
I wonder if it's just that easy. Specifically, being that a lot of us have been conditioned to think that it is something that you do on, a particular time at a particular place, right? Is it really that easy?
It is, but it's, we'll say it this way. It's simple, but it ain't easy.
Got you.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, if your whole life you've been taught that everything you're ever going to do is out there.
Right.
You have to go out and do all of these things. And that really sitting with yourself is not goals. You know what I'm saying? Being able, you know exactly where I'm going back. Where you feel like no pain, no gain. Where one of the things I do understand is that we learn through pain or through insight. And the insight part is kind of left out. It's pain. You know what I'm saying? And the reality is, if you learn some different kinds of tools, meditation, affirmations, affirmative prayer, staying away from dumb people. I was going to say a curse word.
I got you. Yeah.
Self-edited.
Right.
If you kind of are around a community of people who vibrate higher, and I don't mean in an airy-fairy way. Like
Right.
there's some real tangible science if you pay attention. I believe faith is a science based on outcomes. What are you having faith
Got you.
in?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Kind of letting go of all the titles of what you think you are, you know, and go on a journey and just kind of life explore for a little while until you figure out. Coming into terms with you are here on Earth School to fulfill a purpose. What is that purpose?
Right.
And it's not something you're going to find on a vision quest.
Yeah.
You are the vision quest.
So for you, when did you kind of, and I don't know if I'm speaking prematurely, but for you, when did you really kind of break away from some of these notions that many of us have been taught our whole lives and really start this journey of self-awareness and being your own guru, so to speak?
I got fired.
Ah.
I'm a radio personality by trade still. But at the time I was at a radio station, my whole entire identity was wrapped up in these call letters. And I was standing up for the ideals that the station wasn't standing up for. And so I got fired. And I was devastated. And I was wondering why. Because I've accomplished all these things. I could not understand why I was devastated to not be able to say, my name is Envy McKee from blah, 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 blah radio station. And I kind of had this epiphany. Well, what would I be without it? What if I just got rid of all of the titles? I'm not a media personality. I'm not a this. I'm not a that. I'm not a this. I'm just Envy McKee, Life Explorer. And literally, it was like a year, maybe 2 years, that's all I was. Wow. And by being a life explorer, by being open, I kind of was able to unpack all these things that I thought I was and came into, it was uncovering who I truly am. Turns out I'm a farmer.
Wow.
You know
After
what I'm
all
saying?
We want to hear more about your farming and who you discovered that you are, but we have to take a break, so we'll be back with more 28 Days and Beyond right after this.
Welcome back to 28 Days and Beyond. We're joined by Farmer Envy McKee.
Farmer Envy McKee.
Isn't that weird?
Was that a joke?
No, I'm
No,
serious.
So cool.
She's
Tell us
very
about
serious.
it. What's up?
I grow food.
Oh, okay.
I grow food. So
Yeah.
but a lot of the wisdom that I came up with happened through gardening. Like you'd be
Yeah.
surprised,
Yeah.
you know, putting
Yeah.
your hands in dirt. Farmers is just one of it, you know, but that wasn't the point. The point was I never would have found.
Because you were so, if you would have stayed attached to these
Yes.
other things.
And then there's this, like that whole glamour thing. Like you had
Yeah.
to. I was the one. I was the one with
Well,
the.
you're still glamorous,
I am glamorous
but
adjacent.
now your inner light
Yes.
is shining and
Yes.
glowing even more.
And one of the reasons why I decided to I don't know if I coined the phrase spiritual literacy. That's not important. What's important is the message. We have to begin to become our own gurus. Like we have to begin to relax this idea that there's someone outside of us that has information. I mean, I want to be clear. We can be guideposts for each other.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
when you post on Instagram, that is powerful. Someone seeing it, you know, especially if it's up-leveled vibrationally. But really what we're into is being authentic. That's the idea of being able to walk the planet as your true self, not as what you believe someone thinks you should be. With sincerity and earnestness. You are not going to meet your soulmate, boo. if you are not walking in places as yourself.
Had to pause on that one. Yeah, right.
Your
'em know.
representative,
Yeah.
your representative is not what's going to get you there.
So practically speaking, for folks who are like, yeah, I'm interested, I want to get literate, you know what I'm saying? What are the ABCs, the phonics of this whole situation?
Up. It's happening.
See? Look at
It's
that.
happening.
Look at that.
It's
So what had
happening.
happened was,
Right.
She's also an author.
I'm an author too.
Yeah. Yes.
Found that out too. I wrote 3 books in 3 years, y'all. So
Wow.
that was a
That's
download. And it's called the
impressive.
Stellar Trilogy. And because I believe firmly that we actually don't need any more self-help books, I wrote sci-fi.
That's what's up.
So you take a journey.
Right.
And what's so cool about this series is that what you read in these books is, I did not have an outline. I had no idea it was going to come on these pages. I had to take the journey too. So everything that I experienced as not a guru, because I have no interest in that, is, you know, real world what a spiritual journey looks like. It's going to be different for everybody, but when you read these words, you'll go, oh, that's me. And you realize the main character, Kai, whose name, Kai means love, is you. And when you take, I'm writing book 4, by the way.
Okay. So it's no longer a trilogy, it's a,
No.
was it a
Well, actually, it's the Stellar
quadrilogy?
Trilogy.
Gotcha.
And then it will be the Stellar Universe.
Oh,
and then
okay,
there's the
gotcha,
Stellar
gotcha,
Omniverse
gotcha.
that comes
Nice.
after that.
Wow.
And they're kind of like
That's stellar, yeah.
chakras. So this one
Oh, I
is
see.
like chakra 1.
Yeah, I got you. See,
I'm giving you all the juice.
Levels.
There's levels.
Yes, the chakra thing. So it's powerful work to do that we each have to do. And I always say to people 2 things. First, don't let people sell you what you are already. And the second one is, your work is that thing you look in the mirror every day. You know what I'm saying? If you're looking for your purpose,
Got you.
start there.
That's
And
powerful.
it is a no.
That's
It
very
is the
powerful.
greatest, hardest work you'll ever do, because that's the only work you're here to do. You know, you were not going to save anybody. You're not here to, but through your evolution, you know what I'm saying? Through your work,
Yeah.
you will inspire other people to do theirs. And we're all afraid to see that dark part of ourselves. That's the hardest part. That's why it's simple,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
grueling, but it gets easier.
And
It
it's a
does.
constant process.
And
It's not a, okay, I'm there now.
Girl, if you don't preach, no, you think it gets easier, and in a way it does,
course, right.
because you get stronger
Yeah.
and you can hold more. But that's really what it's about, is being able to hold your power, hold
Yeah.
your energy, and stop giving it away.
Yeah.
Well, where can we find these gems? How do we support you, the Stellar Trilogy, and all these other amazing projects that I know that you have coming up?
Yes.
Where do we do
So you can go to envymckee.com. That's ENVYMCKEE.com. And the Stellar Trilogy is available wherever books are sold, at Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
All the
If you want a
places.
signed copy, boo, envymckee.com.
Well, Envy, thank you so much for
Yeah.
coming today. This was amazing.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be back with more 28 Days and Beyond right after this.
Welcome back to 28 Days and Beyond. Kharisma.
Amari.
Yes.
How are you feeling, sir?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling light. I'm feeling ready to go, charged up, in alignment. You know what I'm saying? I think it was a good conversation about some things that, you know, as we sort of, you know, preface, like, this is not, can't just be acting a little uptight when you talk about spirituality. Like, if
This
you talk
is
about
true.
religion, then that's one thing. But spirituality, it's like,
I don't
because
wanna
you
hear
can't
all
put your
that
fingers
foo-foo
on it. You
stuff.
can't touch it. You know
I've
what I'm
heard
saying? It's
stuff
too,
like that.
yeah.
And also, I feel like people think spirituality looks a certain way.
Yeah.
Like, meaning, like, if someone says, oh, I'm spiritual for...
Yeah,
they're-
space cadets.
Yeah, like, there's
Yeah.
this misconception of what that means. And really, when you talk about just being centered and being aware of who you are, like, really, that's all spirituality is. And
Yeah.
doing the work to make sure that you are the best version of yourself that you can be versus this... I mean, because, and I think we've talked about this a little bit before, there's always kind of, like, okay, you walk into a room, right? And as you walk into the room, whoever's in the room, they see you and they perceive you as something.
Yep.
That perception of you could be completely different from who you actually are. And often it is. It's completely different. So making sure that we're doing the work to not kind of fall in line with being this thing or this person that
Oh, I
other
see.
people want
Yeah,
us to be
right.
versus being true to who we really are, I think is very important.
Yeah, so, you know, Emmy said that the only work that you need to be doing is the work in the mirror, or at least that's the primary work. That everything will fall, into place after that. Of course, again, there are people who will get caught up in the. It's really interesting because it's like, oh, well, no, but how do you do that, and how do I meditate, but it's like, yo, the reality is you don't have to do anything. You just have to be, and that I think, as she said, is simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's difficult because we are constantly told to be something other than what we are.
Even this idea of meditation, it's like, really, meditation is just sitting alone with yourself and spending time with yourself.
Right.
Like, it doesn't have to be anything bigger than that.
Yeah.
It's just spending time with yourself and getting into a place where you feel good. That's it. That's all it is.
The reason that this is important is because I was reading a book, and the guy had this experience where he almost, he felt like he was on his way out, so he made peace with things in his life. And one of the things that he said was, he wanted to live his life in a way that when he met God, he would even exceed God's expectations.
Wow.
What? Imagine. How can you do that if you're trying to be somebody else?
You can't.
Marinate on that. This has been another episode of 28 Days and Beyond,
Where we talk about our history, our heritage, and our culture. We'll see you next time.
Peace.